I was orphaned at age 17, so I have no family. My mum died when I was 7 of cancer. So that was sort of somewhat known. She was sick for 2 or 3 years. And then my dad went to work one day when I was 17. He worked on what we call the ferries, the boats that go between England and France and England and Belgium. And he was the senior chief engineer on a boat that sadly capsized. So he had said goodbye to me the day before, and then I never saw him again. So I think in ways that I didn't understand, that one was the most impactful. I think what it taught me is at the time, I really had a devastating feeling of aloneness, having been an only child. But what it set me up for was an immense amount of compassion. So it's like life gave me the visceral experience of being alone so that I could have so much compassion for even people, they're in marriages, they have family, but they still feel very lonely. So it was super impactful, but it set me up to be, I would say, a much more loving and understanding man.
What has changed you for the better?
Something that's changed me for the better was actually losing my parents at a young age. I definitely went through a very angry stage, and I felt like a victim of my circumstances. The anger showed up in my life through lots of toxicity, lots of drug and alcohol use, vengeance and hatred. There was definitely a rock bottom moment, and that was when I just had no will to live. It had all the positive energy had been sucked from out of me, and I saw no reason to continue being a part of this life experience.
What is the most painful thing you have ever been told?
That I wasn't enough.
And who told you that you're not enough?
One of my foster parents. Just imagine growing up in the system and then, you're being taken away from the things that you know and the things that you don't understand and being placed with somebody else who's supposed to be a better environment and they're not. Just imagine how that would make you feel. I actually ran into them at the grocery store and I just said, hey, by the way, just to let you know, I'm actually a therapist and a fashion model in the making. So thank you for telling me I wasn't enough because I'm everything I'm supposed to be and more.
What is the most painful thing anyone has ever said to you?
My parents, when they say they're disappointed in you. When they say that, it hits a little deeper than your usual, I'm upset with you, because you're doing something that actually genuinely disappoints them.
How did their words affect you?
Moving forward, then you just always do the right thing. And now that actually affects me in like work and friends and relationships. When someone says they're disappointed in you, I actually sit back and say, you know what, I must have actually did something wrong.
What is something I wouldn't believe about you?
I was adopted before I was born the first time, and then after my mom passed away, my stepdad adopted me as an adult. I also recently, through 23andMe, connected with my birth mom.
Were you in search for her?
No, fell in my lap unexpectedly. I cried. She gave me a hug. It was a very weird kind of emotional explosion, and then it was just getting to know someone.
Was there a question that you wanted to ask?
Why she chose my mom to adopt me. She said that my mom sent her a picture in her application, and she just looked at her and knew that she was meant to be my mom.
And what advice would you give to those who think they don't need to find them?
If it is something that you're even thinking might be a good thing, it's worth it, because you don't want it to be something you never did and regret not doing it versus facing your fear and just leaning into it.
What is something I wouldn't believe about you?
When I was very young, I lost both my parents. I actually lost my dad to suicide when I was 5, and then my mum to cancer when I was about 14, 15. Yeah, it was hard, especially for my mum, like having to step up, look after me when she's just lost, like the love. And then just dealing with everything on her own and still like giving me a great childhood. I don't think many people know, because I feel like I can cover it quite well. When you're talking about your parents and people are talking about situations with your parents, and then it's just sort of so awkward, sort of just freeze. And it's a weird feeling. When you tell them and they react and they're feeling so sorry for you, I don't know, it makes me feel quite bad. People just assume that you go home every day to your parents, or you do things with your parents every weekend and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not the normal for me.
What's something I wouldn't believe about you?
I experienced a lot of childhood trauma, grew up in an abusive household, and carried that for 30 years, to the point where it completely ruined me. And last year I had to take about 5 months out of life to face the trauma, completely relive it, process the emotions, overcome it all. I could no longer live a day with myself and was sort of terrified as to what was going to happen for me next if I didn't really address it. Emotions are something we have to process by going through them. We can't just intellectualize that. If internally we're not okay, externally we've got nothing to offer ourselves or other people either.
What is something you worry about way too often?
Something I probably worry about too much is my parents dying. Very lame, but they are my best friends. They give me a huge purpose in life. I guess I kind of fixate on it a lot, and it becomes quite an unhealthy obsession of mine. And I know that it's something that's inevitable, and I think everyone thinks about their parents dying. As I get older, I'm becoming more aware of their innocence, and that's making it harder to think that something so cruel as death could even happen to them. My life will probably end when they die.
What can you do to sort of comfort yourself in the short term?
Really just focus on cherishing the moments and the memories, live in the present. I just think that they're the most pure, amazing people. Cherish every moment that we have now.
What is one thing I wouldn't guess about you?
I was adopted. I was fostered.
Tell me a little bit about your journey, specifically if you were able to find your birth family.
My best friend, who I have known since I was 12 years old, was sitting in my front room one day, and my sister decided to do my tarot cards, and she read my tarot cards and said to me, what you want to know about your life is here in this room today. So I told my best friend Karen, I'm adopted, I'm this, I'm that, blah blah blah. I have never told you before because I'm ashamed, and I told her what my birth mother's name was, and ironically she used to live with this girl called Susan, and she was my sister. My friend Karen phoned up Susan, and Susan lived 10 minutes away from me and drove down, knocked on my door, and I met her that night.
What is something you regret not saying to someone?
That I love them.
Who was the person?
My mom. When I went away to college, I didn't say I love you to my family. I kind of just woke up that day and said bye to them. And then ever since then, I kind of regretted not saying goodbye to them because I was homesick, and my mom texts me every day and she's like, love you. And I'm like, ugh, I'm so sorry. When my mom texted me the day after and she was just like, it's quiet here without you. And I'm like, I really thought I went unnoticed in this family. And I was like, ugh, I feel horrible.
I miss my mom and my dad. My mother was very, very helpful in my growing up. She always gave me things. She always did things for me. And then as she got older, she developed Alzheimer's. So she couldn't remember who I was. She couldn't remember who her daughters were. That was very sad, you know. But I loved my mom and she loved us.
What is the biggest lesson you learned from your mom?
Love everybody, no matter what goes on. Just be kind to everybody. Don't worry about if they're not doing the right things. You know, talk to the Lord about it. If you can't deal with something, He'll change your heart so you'll be able to say, you know what, I do love you. Can't stand what you did, but I do love you. Now get out my face, okay? So have a good day.